Welcome to everyone. This is David Crow, and this is another Floracopeia webcast in the series that explores a number of important subjects in the fields of aromatherapy, medicinal plants, and ecological spirituality. Our subject today is Floracopeia, the company. Specifically, it is about our guiding vision, the work that we are doing, what we hope to accomplish, what we have accomplished, and what some of the challenges are. So we can start with an image of a lotus, one of the world's oldest flowers. This is to remind us that plants came first, and the plants created the world for us to live in, and the plants provide for all of our needs. Therefore, plants are the most important resource for humanity. In spiritual traditions, the lotus represents awakening, illumination, enlightenment, insight. In my mind, plants and spiritual awareness go together, because if we recognize our dependency on plants, then we can see the interrelatedness between everything in life, and we can understand the social priorities that need to change in order for there to be healing of the damage that we have caused to ourselves and the earth. Just as the lotus represents the ancient past, it also represents the hope of having a habitable world in the future, because without the help of the plants, and their intelligence and their abilities to restore and regenerate the biosphere, life will become increasingly difficult. We think of Floracopeia as a company that has a structure like a mandala. We place the plant in the center of the mandala out of recognition that the life force of the plant is what sustains all life on Earth. The word Floracopeia might conjure up two different images for you. The first might be the pharmacopoeia of Flora. The second might be a cornucopia of flowers. For us, it is both. Our work has taken us into a world filled with an abundance of aromatic healing plants. There are all the flowers, of course, like roses and lavender and orange blossoms, and exotic tropical species like champa and ylang-ylang. But every type of aromatic plant is there. There are trees like the frankincense growing in the most inhospitable deserts that provide their resins, and conifers from the forests, and Palo Santo from South America. There are roots that come from Rajasthan, and fragrant leaves that come from the bushes in Corsica, and spices from everywhere. Floracopeia is directly and intimately connected to hundreds of species of plants around the world. The health, well-being, abundance, and sustainability of these precious botanical resources is our primary purpose for being in business. These plants are for us the center of the mandala. But a mandala has many layers and dimensions, so it is not just the plants that we are concerned with. There are also the people who care for the plants. These people are those who are involved in reforestation projects, who practice ecological and organic agriculture, who plant and harvest. And of course, there are the distillers who extract the essential oils from the plants. There are people like Dante Boccato in Ecuador, who has dedicated his life to protecting and replanting the Palo Santo trees. There are people like Pierre Alessandri in France, who continues the traditional organic agriculture passed down to him through many generations. There are the women of the Nepalese Himalayas, who harvest the leaves of wintergreen, and women of South India, who gather jasmine flowers. There are some who work in deserts, and some who work in gardens, and some who work in markets. And of course, there are the distillers, who receive the plant material and, using the ancient alchemy of fire and water, extract the precious drops of aromatic treasures that we know as essential oils. There are distillers in Africa and distillers in Nepal and in India and in Europe and countless other places. All these people, from those who plant the seeds to those who harvest the fruits and flowers, to those who gather the wild plants, to those who do the distillation, are part of the mandala that we support. We see the life force of the plants flourish from the care they receive from the people in this circle of the mandala. We see and smell that life force in the freshly harvested plants, and then we see and smell the final product of essential oil in the bottle that they produced. Agriculture is not easy work, which is why so much of humanity has abandoned it. It is especially hard working with species that require hand labor and where modern equipment is not available or not efficient. Our support for this work is crucial because this is an important and necessary livelihood for millions of people around the world. To support these people is the other primary reason that we are in business at Floracopeia. Now we can see that in our model of business, the plants are the center of the mandala, and those who care for the plants are the first circle around them. The next circle is Floracopeia. Our work is to make the aromatic treasures that come from the producers available. Finally, the third circle in the mandala is all the people who value these treasures for health, healing, and enjoyment. This mandalic model of business illustrates one of our most important guiding principles, which is to reciprocate and give back to nature, and to share and elevate the prosperity that nature gives to us. We acknowledge that the plants are the source of life, and we can see that their life force flows outward, first to those who care for them, then to us as a business, then to all who receive these blessings. In return, those who purchase our products give our business economic support, which is another form of life force, which we then return to the producers, which allows them to continue their work of caring for the plants. In this way, we can say that our model of business is a circular flow of reciprocal life force. This model of business is idealistic and utopian, of course, but all of the growers, harvesters, and distillers that we work with represent a success story of sustainability under extremely challenging environmental, political, and economic conditions. Now we come to Floracopeia's second guiding vision, and another of our primary company goals. We call this the 4 global benefits of medicinal plants. These 4 benefits are, number 1, healthcare, 2, economic, 3, environmental, and 4, cultural and spiritual. All of these benefits are incredibly important for solving numerous interrelated worldwide problems. Our work with distillers and our educational programs on natural medicine are all directly related to promoting these benefits and increasing the awareness of how valuable medicinal plants are as a resource for humanity at this time. I will share a few images here to illustrate some of the important points about each of these benefits and how they relate to the work we are doing at Floracopeia. The first benefit is healthcare. Medicinal plants are humanity's oldest and most widespread form of healing. They are cost-effective compared to most pharmaceuticals, come from renewable resources, and are generally non-toxic. In many parts of the world, people cannot afford modern medical care, even if it is available. This is a very typical scene that one can find in almost every part of Central and South America, India, Africa, and Asia. Many times, people go to these local grassroots level herbalists after modern medicines have failed. This image is of Dr. Ngawang Chopal, my teacher of Tibetan medicine in Kathmandu. Doctors such as Dr. Chopal and Ayurvedic physicians play a valuable role in continuing centuries-old medical lineages by practicing traditional diagnosis and administering herbal formulas made from locally available plants. There's one very important point to know about medicinal plants that illustrates how vital they are for everyone at this time. Medicinal plants contain highly concentrated nutrients that support our strength, vitality, and immunity, and compounds that help the body detoxify itself. These functions are becoming increasingly necessary as the health of the soil and food chain declines and environmental toxicity increases. But this is something that pharmaceutical drugs cannot offer us. The next global benefit of medicinal plants is economic. Whether it is an entire region, such as the south of France, or a large-scale operation, such as a tea tree farm in Australia, or an individual herbalist gathering for a local market, medicinal plants represent a valuable source of income. Medicinal and aromatic plants are generally more valuable as crops than conventional crops such as fruits and vegetables. In some cases, such as roses, the finished product can be one of the most valuable crops per acre that can be grown. In my travels in India, I met many farmers and asked them what their most valuable crop was. In every case, they replied that it was flowers, which are sold fresh in markets all over the country for festivities and ceremonies. I like this image because it shows a lotus vendor in the Mumbai flower market. He is selling pink lotuses, which are offered to Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity, and counting his money. When we support those who are involved in agriculture, we are helping to maintain traditional lifestyles that are rapidly eroding from the forces of modernization. For example, in Corsica and many parts of Europe, people are leaving traditional agricultural lifestyles because there is so much more money to be made in tourism and real estate development. In India, it is mostly the elderly who are still working on the farms, as the young people have all gone in search of greater wealth in the industry and technology sectors. In many parts of the world, there are not even those opportunities available, and leaving the land where the family has lived for generations means arriving in sprawling slums with even less opportunity. No one is getting wealthy in agriculture except big biotech companies, but for countless people, the income derived from their aromatic and medicinal treasures is extremely valuable. Over the last few years, Floracopeia has grown tremendously. At this point, we routinely place orders for large shipments of aromatic treasures from all over the world. As a growing business, we are of course concerned about the costs of these purchases, but in my mind, I always remember that the end result is that we are sending increased prosperity to those who are working to care for the plants. In most parts of the world, this prosperity is magnified many times because of the difference in economy. This is one of the important contributions we are making to individuals and communities around the world. The next global benefit of medicinal plants is environmental. In general, the health of the biosphere is directly dependent on the health of plants, but the health of plants is also dependent on the ecosystems they grow in. One of the first environmental benefits is closely related to economic benefits, which is using high-value plants as alternatives to deforestation, mining, and development. One of the best examples of this is agar wood, which is extremely valuable for its wood and oil. Agar wood oil, which can be obtained from trees as young as 10 years old, makes them so valuable that they are now the primary species used in sustainable agroforestry in many parts of Southeast Asia. Another environmental benefit of medicinal and aromatic plants is that they grow well in intensive conditions and are cropped with many other species. For example, while growers are waiting for the agarwood trees to mature, they can also harvest patchouli several times a year. Another example of this type of agroforestry is cardamom. Cardamom bushes love to grow in the shade of old-growth forests. In my travels in Kerala, South India, I was fortunate to be able to spend some time in some of the most enchanted forests I had ever seen, with towering old trees that had been preserved and protected from logging for centuries by the valuable crop underneath them. I had another magical experience while visiting this farm in Rajasthan. It was 40 acres that had been planted with 17 varieties of mangoes, medicinal trees that are used in Ayurvedic medicine, vegetables, fruits, and roses. This farmer was very innovative because he had stopped using the typical methods introduced during the so-called Green Revolution, which utilized hybrid seeds and high levels of pesticides and fertilizers. His neighbors were all suffering economically as those crops began to fail over time. But in his case, his land was transformed into a beautiful paradise. Although this photo does not convey it very well, I felt that I was in Eden. It was peaceful, beautiful, fragrant, filled with bird songs, watered with pure spring water, and filled with an abundance of crops growing in healthy, fertile soil. Standing there, I had an epiphany and realized that the only thing that is needed to create paradise on earth is intelligent agriculture. In this case, medicinal and aromatic plants were directly responsible for creating that environment, as well as making Babulal one of the wealthiest farmers in the region. In reality, all medicinal plants are good for the environment, whether they are growing cultivated or wild. Because of environmental pollution, it is increasingly important that crops are grown organically, which means that their production, using ecological methods, is healing to the earth. Plants will naturally purify the environment they grow in. Conversely, plants concentrate the elemental and energetic influences of their surroundings into what become the medicinal and aromatic compounds that we use. Therefore, the more pure the environment, the higher the quality of the medicine the plants produce. We find this illustrated in two marvelous examples. The first is the wild Helichrysum of Corsica, which is chemically unique to all varieties of the same species because of the specific conditions of soil, water, and climate where it grows. The second example is the flower essences that Sarah has brought from Iceland. In these products, it is the subtle pranic life force of both the flowers and the influences of the environment that are gathered, which give them their unique vibrational healing powers. Whenever we receive shipments of oils, I know that they have been sent from environments that are being protected and preserved, and that they represent the purity of those ecosystems. In my mind, this confirms that we are participating in something very important ecologically, which is one of our important missions at Floracopeia. The next benefit of medicinal plants is the role they play in spiritual culture. People have been living intimately with plants for millennia and have gathered a vast repository of knowledge about their cultivation, harvesting, preparations, and uses. This knowledge is one of our greatest legacies, which is being rapidly lost. Much of this knowledge is linked to culture through ceremony and ritual that utilize plants, such as those that celebrate the cycles of the seasons in agriculture and the cycles of life, such as birth, marriage, and death. When societies value plants, they take care of them and protect and preserve them. One of the very special ways that I have seen this done is how the people of India value flowers, which I have mentioned before. Flowers are the most lucrative cash crop for millions of farmers who supply markets all over the country. The markets, in turn, supply an endless demand for flowers for daily use, specifically for ceremonies and festivities. The most widespread use of flowers is for offerings, given to the various forms of divinity in temples and shrines. If we think about this custom, it is quite remarkable. Millions of people are employed in a sustainable form of agriculture that has no utilitarian purpose whatsoever. It is purely aesthetic and spiritual. This is a perfect example of how we might use plants to change our social priorities, back to something simple, basic, and more human than many of our modern values and pursuits. At Floracopeia, we have always had a great appreciation for the aromatic treasures that have been used for spiritual purposes for thousands of years. Many of our favorite oils, woods, and resins, such as frankincense, palo santo, agarwood, and sandalwood, have been used by countless people throughout history to accompany prayer, meditation, contemplation, and celebration. These trees give us not only lovely fragrances, but also important medicines that are known for healing not only the body, but the mind and emotions as well. When we integrate plants into spiritual practice, we develop a kind of ecological spirituality that recognizes and values the gifts that nature has given us. Encouraging and promoting this awareness is one of the most important visions that we have in our work at Floracopeia. So we have completed our discussion about the mandalic model of our business and the guiding principles of the 4 global benefits of medicinal plants and how we are involved in those. To conclude, I'd like to say a few words about where Floracopeia came from and how we got started, because it shows us what our most important priorities are. Floracopeia grew out of my clinical practice of traditional Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine. Now Sarah has joined me, and we together have close to 40 years of experience with acupuncture, herbal medicine, aromatherapy, and her specialty, flower essences. When you practice clinically with medicinal plants, you develop a great appreciation for their powers. This is a very different view and orientation than what a person working in the business of herbal products might have. In business, the first priority is selling products. In clinical practice, the first priority is the safe and effective use of the herbs. As many of you know from my numerous presentations, the world of aromatherapy and essential oils is extremely complex. Specifically, many people are receiving dangerous and misleading information about the use of essential oils, which places them at risk for harm. At Floracopeia, we have made the safe use of essential oils our top priority. When I teach, either at live events, in video courses, or on webcasts such as this, I am always speaking as a clinician, not a businessman. I believe that this is an ethical responsibility that we have as a business. So this concludes our presentation about the vision and mission and guiding principles that we hold at Floracopeia. I hope you found it interesting and educational, and from all of us, thank you for joining me.